Let's begin with chapter 1. How do we call chapter 1? We call it, it's written like that, chapter 1, O-N-E, not 1 numeric. Full colon, introduction, and background. Of the study. There are no full stops in any headings and subheadings. Students should know that. No full stops in any headings and subheadings. So, subheading number 1 is 1.1, not 1.0 as many students put it. 1.1 means it is in chapter 1 and it is saying the first thing. Do you get the point? So you will not have a subheading that says the 0th thing. Introduction. Please note, only I is capitalized. We are using title case. Using title case only, the first letter is capitalized. Under introduction, introduce all variables. Please note, we are not defining but introducing. We are introducing variables. Are we together there? For our case, for our example, what are the variables and in what order? We will introduce staff retention. We will also introduce talent management. Then we will introduce Yes? Yes? Talent identification, and then talent acquisition, and then finally, talent reward. Please keep these within approximately 2 pages. I've already spoken about that, so I'm not going to waste more time about talking about how you'll be writing within. But one thing I will advise you, even as you are writing about each one of them, create a small outline of what you want to say about talent management. You get the point? Have a small content, a small piece of paper on the side you're writing. Under talent management, I want to write about the difficulty, for example, talent management, maybe difficulties, maybe I want to write about shortage of talents and shortage of focus on talents. You know, make a small summary, Don't just start writing. Make a small summary before you go into that paragraph, so that you know I'll talk about this, and I'll go into this, and I'll go into this, and I'll get done. You get the point? That is proper planning. Don't just type and allow God to lead you through this journey. Research writing is difficult, you know they say. Hey. 1.2 is background of the study. Please note, B and S are the only capital letters. B and S are the only capital letters. Title case. Observe title case. Under background of study, you will have 1.2.1. Please remind me, what was our target group? It was the service industry in Kenya. Service industry in Kenya. Please note that first letters are capitalized except I for in. Why? Title case. Observe title case. Connecting words, the smaller connecting words are in small letters. If you are writing off the, no title case. I mean, no capital letters for O and for T. But for whatever we have here, S is capitalized, I is capitalized, and K is capitalized. But I for in Kenya is not. What do you write under service industry in Kenya? Give facts, give figures, and give history. Those three things are the main things as you give the overview of the industry. Give us facts, figures, and history. Then let's proceed. You go to 1.2.2. What was the case study organization? Sarova Stanley. I'm assuming you confirm that this organization is actually called Sarova Stanley. If it is called Sarova Stanley Company Limited, call it by its correct name. Don't create your own name. Don't assume. What do you give under this? The same. Facts, figures, and history. Okay? Then proceed to 1.3, what is 1.3? Understatement of the problem. Tell us what is the ideal situation. Tell us what is the reality situation. And tell us what are the consequences and how, therefore, your study will be the only study that will help resolve this information by generating important information. That your study is the only study that will resolve this challenge or this problem. It is your study. Only, the only study. World over. There is no other study. You are the only footballer that is left with the goalkeeper. You either squander this chance or you use it well. You understand? Remember that, that illustration I gave earlier on. And we're moving on. 1.4. 1.4 is objectives of the study. .4 is objectives of the study. O and S are capitalized. Objectives of the study. Now, under objectives of the study, there is the general objective and the specific objective. Okay? So, 1.4.1 becomes the general objective of the study. And it is usually one, only one. When you hear general objective of the study, for anyone who has been in this research talk from the beginning, what do you remember? General objective of a study. Where does it take you? It takes you to the topic. The topic is the only one that has the independent variable that is condensed into one. It is a topic. Because the rest will be specific. Specific depend on the independent variables as presented in the conceptual framework. Okay? So, under general objective, operationalize the topic. Do you remember what I said about operationalization? Operationalize the topic by giving words that are showing intention. You are showing intention. Now, the use of the word operationalization here is not the same as I used it when I talked about indicators. Okay? I'm saying give it words that show intention. What are these words? Which words are these? Yes? To investigate. Okay? To investigate. Then state the topic. and you have the general objective of the study. 1.4.2, specific objectives of the study. What do you have? Use Roman, but you could use any other. You could use any other. Then specify those objectives. We have already spoken about that. And I'm skipping to chapter 2. Let me tell you, there is no student I have ever seen failing a defense because of 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. I have never. And remember, our conceptual framework falls in chapter. Have you seen the guidelines? Unlike the other universities, is in chapter 1. So, these others, please check what others have written. From 1.5, 1. Scope, limitations of the study scope, you could find out what people are writing about. That's not a very serious issue that I may want to take time talking about. Now I'm going to chapter 2, literature review. And I will stop at chapter 3. And now I'm moving faster. So if you're not careful, you may be left behind. So under chapter 2, okay, we have chapter 2, literature review. Oh, in capital letters, literature review. Under literature review, we begin 2.1. And 2.1 is usually introduction. 2.1 is usually introduction. Now, in as much as introduction is the first thing to appear, it is usually the last thing to be written. Don't write it unless you are done with chapter 2. Usually, it will show the parts you have covered. Do you know those parts unless you've written? You will need to have written first. True or false? I'm going to 2.2, theoretical review. Please consider a maximum of 2 theories. Don't go into many theories. Maximum of 2. You can even go with 1 and you're safe. Now, look for a theory that underpins your study. What does it mean to underpin? Your study will revolve on that theory. Underpinning is placing that pin right below your study. So your study rests on that pin. Now, a question about talent retention. Staff retention. Which are the theories that you think could be underpinning a literature review or a study on talent, on staff retention? When you're talking about staff retention, which are the theories that you feel are going to underpin that study? Now, you will need to carry out a search. Theories within talent or staff retention. Theories within staff retention. Once you get a theory, see what the theory says and see whether that theory could carry your study all the way to the end. Okay? Now, key issues that you should talk about that theory. Postulation. What is postulation? What does the theory say? Number 2, application. How does a theory apply to your study? Number 3, proponents. Do not forget to specify proponents. Also, remember to give, if there exists some argument for or against the theory, okay? Now, remember, in as much as I presented application as the second, I expect this to come last. As an examiner reads your work, they usually go to the end, at the end of your theories, and they check whether you are writing about that theory, but they look for words like Africa, Kenya, or Nairobi. That way, once they see those words, you have applied. You get the point? Because there's no way, look, Abraham Maslow wrote his theory in 1943. You cannot leave it in 1943. You have to bring it home and apply it in your study and say, in as much as Abraham Maslow says that these needs have to be cleared in a hygienic or in a hierarchical manner, this doesn't seem to be the case within organizations in Africa. Why? Because of A, B, C, D. You get the point? Bring the theory home. Once we are done with the theories, then we go to 2.3, empirical review. Now, one thing I'll tell you, empirical review is a review of studies that have been done in that area, but they are presented in the same way we presented 1.1 introduction. Remember that approach? Do you remember how we started? With retention, then with talent management, then we went into talent acquisition, then talent reward, then talent identification. In that same hygiene. Are we okay? So, 2.3.1, it will be staff retention. Give us studies that have been done about this. 2.3.2 will be talent management. 2.3.3 will be talent acquisition. For example, depends on the order. 2.3.4 will be talent identification. And 2.3.5 will be talent reward, if that was the order we were using. Now, finally, 2.6, knowledge gap. Sorry, 2.4, knowledge gap. What about knowledge gap? What about knowledge gap? What is a knowledge gap? A knowledge gap is a statement that seeks to prove that studies have been done on this area and on this area and on this area and on this area, but there is no study so far that covers, state your topic. I want to repeat just in case you didn't get it. A knowledge gap is a statement that shows studies were done on this area and on this area. We reviewed this area. We reviewed this area. But there was no study, not even one, that covers your area. I'm done with that. I'm going to the very last bit. And this will be the last part of the presentation. So because proposal is done once you square chapter 1, 2, and 3. Now, 3.1, introduction. In the same manner, introduction appears first, but is the last to be written. Please remember, in the same manner, abstract appears before chapter 1, but it's written last. In the same manner. So, I'm going to 3.2, and I'll be talking very quickly about some of these issues. Research design. There are many research designs. Please help me name these research designs. They include which one and which one? Very quickly. You know we have no time. Some of these research designs include? Yes? Case study research design. Yes? Experimental research design. Which other one? Survey. Which other one? Some people say qualitative and quantitative should not be categorized as research designs because they pull together a number of research designs under them. It depends on how you argue. I don't want to go into the politics of deciding whether or not. But we have descriptive research design, exploratory research design. Yes? Cross-sectional research design. Many other research designs exist, ethnographic research designs. There are many, many other research designs. Please remember to state the following. Don't just explain about that research design according to the authors. No. What you should be able to do is, number one, which design do you choose? Number two, why? As you explain which design, you need to also explain the workings. As you explain these things, please remember, look for aspects of your study that motivate you to choose this design. Did you get that statement? Look for aspects of your study. What are the aspects of your study that motivate you to choose this design and not the others? For example, respondents are expected to be people who are not well educated. That could affect your design. Now, the same approach, the same questions that we're talking about that you need to respond to are going to be applicable to the other subsections. What are the other subsections I'm talking about? 3.3. What is 3.3? 3.3 could be research sites. Is that correct? Is someone checking the guidelines? Okay, there are variations. By the way, there are variations. There are variations. You don't have to stick to that guideline the way it is, provided you understand the thinking of whoever came up with it. Okay? Some small variations could be accepted. Now, under research design, research site, this is a point where you're saying where the study will be carried out. Give a brief description of that area, where the questionnaires or the research instruments for data collection, where they will be administered. Let's not imagine that only questionnaires are used for data collection. And we'll be checking that later. Then 3.4, sampling design. Under sampling design, please answer these same questions. Okay? Answer those same questions. Which design? Why? What are the characteristics of the study that motivate you to stick with this research design? Because research designs are many, including which one? Let's name them. Research designs include which one? Which one? Yes? Research designs. Yes? Huh? Snowball. Which is the most common? Simple random sampling, yeah? Simple random. There is stratified random. There is quarter sampling. There is, yes? Yes? Cluster. There is cluster. There is snowball, where you get one respondent, use that respondent to lead you to another respondent. Snowball. As the snowball is rolled over, it becomes bigger and bigger. Okay? Right now, we're not talking about those because you're able to get that information online and on books. And in books, I mean. So, sampling design. Which design? The question is which. The question is why. And show characteristics of your study that motivate you to use that design. After sampling design, 3.5, we have sample size. Under sample size, you are expected to use what is called a sampling frame. And a sampling frame is a simple table that shows, for example, there are many ways you could present a sampling table. You could show categories of respondents. Under categories of respondents, you could have top management. You could have operational staff, and you could have maybe functional heads. And here, you could look at total number or total staff within the category, and then you could give it as a percentage of respondents, and then here you could have actual respondents. So it's just a way of saying categories of respondents include 1, 2, 3, 4. How many are they within that category? Then, what is the percentage that you want to pick for the total staff that will actually be the respondents? So here I will take top management. I will take 100% of them because they are very few. Listen, that argument, because they are very few, is part of what you'll write. Functional heads, I will take 50% because they are a bit more. And operational staff, I'll take 100% because they have the information I'm looking for. Are you hearing those arguments that I'm having? I believe they have the information I'm looking for. Because they are few. Because there are many, I'll take few. Those arguments, and they must be logical. This is what is called a sampling frame. Okay? Then after that, we go 3.6. Let's go to 3.6. 3.6 instruments. Okay, not instruments, but here we talk about procedures. Procedure for data collection. Some will write data collection procedures. So remember, every time we talk about procedure before we go to data collection tools themselves. So what are the issues you'll talk about procedures? What are the issues you will do to prepare yourself for data collection? Number one, you may apply for permit from NACOSTI. Number two, you will apply for authority from the university. Please note down those things. Please, I beg you, note down those things. You'll get to that point and you will see a blackout. When we talk about procedures, remember, you may need permissions. You may need permits. Those are the aspects that will, and then any other procedure, any other thing that you will do as you prepare yourself for data collection. 3.7 instruments for data collection. Remember the same questions. Which instruments? Why? And then what are the characteristics of your study that prompt you to choose that instrument? Characteristics of your study. I didn't say characteristic of your respondents only. Characteristics of your study, or even characteristics of your respondents. So we're looking at the bigger picture. So the point is, what are the instruments, by the way? Let's just list them, just like we did for the, what are the instruments? A questionnaire, observation. Is observation an instrument? Observing like this is not an instrument. The instrument is called an observation schedule. Okay? Which other instrument do we have? An interview schedule. Now, which one are you using? And by the way, you don't have to use one. You may have two. You may have observation schedule for matatu drivers, if you're studying the matatu industry. And you may have a questionnaire for staff members who work within a certain office. And you must have your good reasons. Now, I don't want to go deeper. Everything ends. There is the aspect of presentation of findings, and ethical consideration. So presentation of findings, there you're talking about the how you'll present your findings. Yes? Yes? Yes, yes. Chapter 3. Let me number it. 3.8, 3.9. But here is just a brief explanation of how you intend to present the findings. Findings or analysis. Okay? Actually, this could be data analysis and presentation of findings. Let me just write it in full, because I don't want to create confusion. Data analysis and presentation of findings. There are some cases where it could be broken. There is flexibility. You could break them and write them separately. Because data analysis, how will you analyze this data? Presentation of findings, how will you present the findings? Now, analysis, you may talk about the tools you're going to use for analysis. You may use Excel, you may use SPSS, and any other tool. You may use R, you may use which other one? You only know SPSS. Strata, and many others. Specify what you are using. And presentation of findings, you may present the findings using graphs and charts. You may present analysis of variance, ANOVA. You may present correlation matrices, or a correlation matrix in that matter, because I expect you to have one if you're using it. You may present chi-square to show the relationships Okay, and under ethical considerations, this is where you talk about issues that you will need to restrain yourself about, because there's a high possibility that as you carry out your study, you are human. You may want to skew the findings. This is where you're saying data will talk, and you will obey what data says. You will not coerce respondents into responding. You will handle information with the required confidence without going around telling people, you know, you go collecting data from an institution. You go talk to another institution telling them, hey, that institution, I went there. Those ones are finished. They have nothing. I went there. There are not even people to respond to my questionnaire. You have to be professional. Ladies and gentlemen, in my thinking, we have covered what was expected of us.